Beneath a canopy of emerald leaves, the night hums with life. Rain drips softly from the ancient ceiba trees, the same sacred giants that once watched over cities of stone. Somewhere, deep in the jungle, a temple rises through the mist, its carvings glowing faintly in the moonlight, like memories of gods long asleep. This is a world where the sky was a calendar, where kings spoke to the stars, and where time itself was measured by the heartbeat of the earth. A world of pride and prayer, of wars fought for honor and harvests blessed by rain. Every stone, every glyph, every breath of wind carries the echo of a people who refuse to be forgotten. If you could stand here among the crumbling temples and whispering leaves, what would you feel first? The weight of history or the quiet rhythm of eternity? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if stories like this help you drift into dreams of lost worlds, gently tap like and subscribe. It truly helps our journeys continue. Now dim your screen, let the night close in, and listen as we step softly into the jungles before time. The night breathes softly around you. Beneath the slow pulse of rain, the jungle seems endless, an ocean of sound and scent. Cicadas murmur in the leaves, frogs sing like tiny drums. The air tastes of moss and cool stone. Somewhere far off, thunder rolls, the kind that moves through the belly of the world rather than the sky. Here, long before cities of limestone reached for the heavens, small fires flicker at the edges of rivers. Families gather close, their faces painted by the orange glow. Children listen as elders whisper stories of how the world began, of the maize god who rose from the darkness, of the tree that holds up the sky. The smell of roasted corn drifts upward, mingling with the damp perfume of night. These are the ancestors of the Maya, hunters, planters, dreamers. They live where the lowlands meet the highlands, between mountains of cloud and plains of flooded grass. Each morning they step barefoot into earth dark as chocolate and scatter seeds that gleam like drops of sunlight. When the rains come, they dance. When they pass, they watch the stars for signs of return. Time, to them, is not a line but a circle, a heartbeat, a breath that always comes again. As you listen, imagine the sky turning pale above the jungle. Mist hangs low, and the first parrots call across the valley. Smoke from 100 small hearths curls upward, joining the clouds. The people speak softly to the sun as it rises, thanking it for another day. Their words are music, syllables shaped by the rhythm of work and prayer. Stone tools click against wood, hands weave mats from reeds. A young woman grinds maize on a flat stone, her motions steady and sure. Each gesture, each sound, will echo through centuries, for these are the motions that will build kingdoms. In the quiet strength of their labour lies the seed of empire. The rivers guide them. From these winding waters will come trade and memory. Canoes of hollowed trunks glide silently through green tunnels, carrying obsidian, salt, and stories between distant settlements. Every bend in the river is a chapter in their map of the world. They read the land like scripture. Every hill a guardian, every cave a passage into the heart of creation. At night, when the sky blooms with stars, they look upward and see patterns no one else has yet named. They count the bright points that wander, Venus, Jupiter, and give them meaning. To them, the heavens are alive, filled with motion and intent. The stars tell them when to plant, when to harvest, when to honor the gods who keep the balance between earth and sky. Can you picture it? The stillness between the drum beats, the scent of wet bark, the glow of constellations mirrored in a river's skin. What would you notice first if you could walk among them? The cool mud beneath your feet, or the warmth of the firelight on your face? Through centuries, these quiet communities grow. Villages expand near fertile lakes and along gentle ridges. Clay walls rise, painted in ochre and lime. The people carve patterns into shells and bone, tracing symbols that mean life, maize, sun. Each mark is a promise that memory will endure. Somewhere near the P10 lowlands, a new settlement begins to stir with purpose. Its builders align the corners of their homes with the cardinal directions, as though to mirror the order of the cosmos. East for rebirth, west for rest, north for ancestors, south for the unseen. Even now, you can almost feel the precision, the reverence. They are constructing not just shelter, but meaning. Seasons come and go. The forests breathe and shift. The people learn to tame water, digging canals and reservoirs to capture the gift of rain. They plant cacao and cotton, maize and beans. Their lives depend on harmony, between people and soil, between prayer and patience. When droughts arrive, they endure them with ritual, with song, with stories that remind them every hardship is a turning of the wheel. As the generations pass, something begins to change. The small villages weave together into networks. Chiefs emerge, leaders who speak to the spirits, who settle disputes, who call the people to gather during festivals. Drums echo through the valley, conch shells sound across the plains. A sense of destiny awakens. They begin to build with ambition, carving platforms from stone so the gods might look down and find them worthy. One night, beneath the trembling constellation of the Pleiades, an elder stands before his people. He raises a torch and lifts his voice above the jungle chorus. "We are not of dust," he says, "but of maize." We were shaped to remember the crowd answers with murmured prayer, a wave of sound that melts into the steady heartbeat of the drums. From these moments, civilization takes root. The jungles of Guatemala, Belize, and the Yucatan cradle the beginnings of cities whose names will echo through time: Nakbe, El Mirador, Tikal. But for now, they are whispers, stone outlines, half hidden by trees, altars glistening with rain. The jungle both conceals and protects them, like a mother hiding her newborn in the folds of her cloak. Listen closer, and you can hear the architecture of belief forming. Every mound of earth, every stairway is aligned with a sunrise or a solstice. The people shape their world to reflect the order of the heavens. In doing so, they begin to write the first silent sentences of their history, not on parchment or clay, but in orientation, proportion, and rhythm. Dawn follows dawn. Children are born, elders pass on, and each generation adds another layer to the growing tapestry. They record nothing on paper, yet their memory runs deep, carried by stories told around the fire. To forget would be to lose balance. To remember is to keep the world turning. Sometimes, as the day cools, a mother tells her child the tale of the hero twins, the brothers who descended into the underworld to outwit the lords of death. Her voice is calm, her tone steady. They did not fear the darkness, she says, for they carried the light of courage within. The child listens, eyes wide, feeling safe beneath the vast breathing night. That comfort, that trust in the turning of stories is how civilizations endure. The jungles change color with the seasons. In the wet months, everything glows green. in the dry gold and grey, rule the horizon. Smoke rises from new fields cleared by hand. The scent of burning wood mixes with that of blooming orchids. The people watch the horizon carefully, sensing the moods of wind and rain. Nature is not separate from them. It is family, temperamental and sacred. When lightning splits the sky, they see the face of Chark, the rain god, flashing bright before their eyes. When thunder rolls, they bow their heads in gratitude and fear. Each sound of the storm is both blessing and warning. Their world is alive, it speaks, and they answer in ritual and reverence. And so, quietly, without fanfare or conquest, the Maya world begins to take shape. Not from sudden empire, but from patience, hundreds of seasons layering one atop another, as vines weave themselves into trunks and trunks into forest. Civilization, like the jungle, grows by persistence. As twilight deepens once more, imagine standing at the edge of one of those first plazas. The air hums with insects. The stones are warm beneath your hands. Children chase each other through the shadows, laughing. Somewhere, a flute plays a slow, wandering melody. The sound drifts upward into the gathering night, carrying with it a promise. That beauty, even in the heart of wilderness, can be built by human hands. The stars emerge, one by one, until the heavens shine like a woven net of fireflies. The people sit in silence, gazing upward, each of them a small reflection of that infinite map. The night is vast, but they do not feel small within it. They are part of its pattern, a thread in the fabric of creation. As you listen, let the quiet settle around you. The air is heavy with the scent of rain and the promise of beginnings. The jungle sighs, the fires fade, the people sleep, their dreams filled with rivers, maize, and constellations that whisper of destiny. The world of the Maya is awakening. Soon, their hands will carve stories into stone. Soon, their eyes will measure time in stars. But for now, the night belongs to the forest, the great breathing heart that shelters the first builders of time. And as the moon climbs high above the ceiba trees, the wind carries the soft rustle of leaves, as if the earth itself is turning a page. Dawn unfolds like a golden whisper across the canopy. Mist drifts through the ceiba trees, curling between vines and half-buried stones. The air shimmers with the scent of wet leaves and fresh soil. From the shadows of that ancient jungle, something remarkable begins to stir. Not an empire of conquest, but an empire of understanding. The people who once followed rivers and stars now begin to reshape the world around them. With obsidian blades and quiet patience, they carve the bones of the earth. Mounds rise, platforms flatten. Each layer of stone placed upon another is an act of faith, not in power, but in pattern. Because to the Maya, the universe is not chaos, it is a clock. Every sunrise, every eclipse, every beat of rain carries meaning. And so they build to honor that meaning, aligning temples with the path of the sun, plazas with the breath of the wind, stairways with the turning of the seasons. When the light first touches their stone altars, it falls perfectly between twin pillars. When the shadows lengthen at dusk, they crawl like slow-moving serpents down the temple walls, echoing the stories their ancestors once whispered around the fire. It is as though their cities are mirrors, reflections of the heavens turned toward the earth. Can you see it in your mind? The glimmer of wet limestone under morning sun, the echo of drums as workers lift stones, their voices rising with rhythm rather than strain. The scent of burning copal drifting through the air, sweet and smoky, curling upward like prayer. These early builders are both mathematicians and mystics. They map the sky with eyes sharper than any instrument. Each star, each cycle, is a syllable in the language of time. They study the wanderings of Venus, noting when it vanishes and returns, timing its dance with such precision that they can predict it centuries ahead. From these observations, the Maya begin to write, not on parchment, but in the living geometry of their temples and the carved curves of their glyphs. Their writing system is born from vision and necessity, a weaving of sound and symbol that allows them to capture memory as no civilization in the Americas has before. A priest bends over a bark paper codex, his brush tipped with soot and plant dye. By torchlight, he paints the stories of gods and seasons, of rulers and wars yet to come. The characters flow like vines, each curve and dot alive with intention. The script becomes sacred, for to write is to echo the voice of creation itself. Around him, the world hums with growth. Stone platforms become temples. Temples become cities. From El Mirador to Nakbe, the jungle begins to open like a green curtain, revealing skylines of stepped pyramids reaching toward the clouds. The cities gleam white with fresh plaster, their surfaces bright enough to reflect the sun. And still, the people remember their roots. Beneath every festival and ceremony, the rhythm of maize continues, planting, tending, harvesting. The gods of earth are never forgotten, for it is from them that life rises. When the rains are late, the people climb the temple steps to call for Chak, the rainbringer. Drums roll like thunder. Shell trumpets sound across the valleys. Smoke rises in spirals, carrying their pleas into the blue vault above. On those high platforms, rulers stand cloaked in feathers, their foreheads bound to lengthen like the crowns of serpents. They are seen not merely as kings, but as bridges, half human, half divine. Their duty is to keep balance, to ensure that heaven and earth continue their dance without falling out of rhythm. Each decision, each ritual, is a step in a cosmic performance that began long before they were born. If you could stand among them, what would you notice first? The shimmer of turquoise in a priest's headdress? The quiet concentration of the scribes, etching glyphs into fresh plaster? Or the vast humming silence that fills the city after a storm, when every leaf, every stone seems to listen? Time itself becomes their canvas. The Maya understand it not as a straight path, but as a woven circle, a pattern of creation, destruction, and renewal. Their calendars multiply. The sacred Solkin of 260 days, the solar Harb of 365, and the long count stretching across thousands of years, mapping cycles beyond any human lifetime. They do not fear the end of the calendar. For them, endings are beginnings in disguise, the exhalation before the next breath. Every cycle brings balance back to the universe. This philosophy seeps into every ritual, every carving, every whisper of their priests. At night, the city sleeps beneath this ocean of stars. On the tallest temple, a young astronomer lies back on the warm stone, tracing constellations with his finger. He knows each one by name, the turtle, the scorpion, the parrot. His elders taught him that the gods walk among these stars, watching, guiding. The thought brings him comfort. Above him, Venus flares bright, the morning star, the herald of renewal. He whispers a prayer, one that will be passed down through generations. And below, in the streets of packed earth, the hum of life continues. Families share food, children laugh, artisans carve masks from wood and jade. The city breathes, growing in quiet rhythm with the forest around it. Even as they cut stone, the Maya do not seek to conquer nature, they seek to converse with it. The wind is not an intruder, but a companion. The rain is not an obstacle, but a guest. When the moon rises, silvering the plazas, the city glows like a reflection of the sky itself. The people gather for ceremony, dancers move in slow, graceful arcs, their shadows long across the white plaster. The air fills with the rattle of shells, the soft thud of drums, and the whisper of feet on stone. Every motion has meaning. Every sound is a prayer made visible. In these moments, the boundary between the human and the divine fades. The temple steps become ladders between worlds. The stars above seem to pulse in time with the torches below. And somewhere within that shimmering rhythm, the Maya understand what few others will ever grasp. That the universe is not something to be explained, but something to be lived with reverence. Slowly, as centuries turn, their architecture becomes more daring, their writing more complex, their calendars more exact. The world beyond their forests begins to take notice, though no traveller yet understands the full depth of what these people have achieved. The Maya are not simply builders of stone, they are builders of time. They shape not only their cities, but the very way they exist within eternity. As the final embers of the ceremonial fires fade, the jungle settles back into its nocturnal song. The air hums softly, bats swoop low between the temples, and the first builders of the sky rest, their dreams filled with stars, their hearts steady with the rhythm of the world they have built. For now, the heavens are still. But soon, new cities will rise, great rivals, each with their own gods, their own dreams carved into stone. The age of dawn is ending, and the age of empires is beginning. The first light of morning glides over the canopy like a blade of gold. It cuts through fog and bird song, revealing rooftops of pale limestone rising from the jungle like the backs of sleeping giants. Smoke rises from distant hearths, twisting in slow, graceful ribbons that blur the boundary between heaven and earth. These are the cities of dawn and smoke, places where myth has taken shape in mortar and stone. What began as quiet villages has become a constellation of shining kingdoms, each a world unto itself. From Tikal in the lowlands to Kalakmul in the heart of the forest, and Copan along the river valleys, the Maya have entered their golden age. The sun catches the tips of temples still damp with dew. High above the treetops, kings stand upon terraces, their cloaks heavy with feathers and jade. They gaze across the endless green and see not wilderness, but their own reflection. A living world ordered by the same patterns that guide the stars. Below, life stirs like a great rhythm. In markets shaded by woven mats, traders spread their goods, cacao beans, obsidian blades, cotton cloth, polished shells from faraway coasts. Voices rise and blend, a gentle hum of commerce and laughter. Children chase each other around pillars painted in red and black. A potter kneels beside her wheel, shaping clay into vessels that will bear the breath of water and corn. Can you imagine walking those avenues at dawn, the air thick with the scent of smoke and ripe fruit, the distant sound of drums echoing off stone as the first ceremony begins? the city is alive, not only with people, but with purpose. The great plazas are designed to draw the sun's light. Every shadow, every angle has meaning. At the heart of each city, temples rise toward the heavens like stairways for gods to descend. Beneath them lie tombs of kings and queens, wrapped in jade, surrounded by offerings of jade and obsidian, gifts meant to guide them through the underworld to rebirth. But for the living, each morning brings its own kind of creation. As the fires are lit and smoke begins to climb, the scent of copal resin drifts through the air, sweet, sharp, sacred. It's said that smoke carries prayers upward, curling through the air like the language of the gods. It blurs the sky and the stone until the city itself seems to breathe. In Tikal, tall pyramids cast long shadows across wide courtyards. The sound of conch shells announces a gathering. Priests in painted masks step forward, moving in time with drums that beat like the heart of the earth. Their voices rise low and measured, reciting the stories carved on the temple walls. Stories of kings who spoke with gods, of heroes who tricked death, of maize that grew from divine sacrifice. Everywhere, the symbols of belief take form. Serpents coiled in limestone reliefs, jaguar thrones draped in green quetzal feathers, stelae etched with dates that tie heaven and earth together. Each carving is a thread in the great fabric of memory. And yet, for all their splendor, these cities are not ruled only by ritual. They are networks, vast and connected, trading salt, obsidian, jade, and cacao across hundreds of miles. Canoes glide through mangrove channels. Messengers run between city-states, carrying news sealed in folded bark paper. The jungle hums with movement, a silent web of trade that binds the Maya world together. As the day warms, the air grows heavy. The plastered plazas glow white under the sun. Farmers from the outskirts arrive bearing maize and honey, while scribes find shade beneath carved lintels, dipping brushes into ink made from soot and plant resin. With quiet focus, they record the deeds of kings, victories in battle, alliances sealed by marriage, offerings made to the gods of rain and death. The sound of their brushes on bark paper is soft as breathing. Every curve of a glyph is deliberate. Every mark must last beyond the lifetime of the hand that drew it. Sometimes a traveller from another city arrives, an envoy draped in bright textiles, escorted by guards with spears tipped in obsidian. They come not only to trade, but to negotiate, to form alliances or challenge rivals. Beneath the serene beauty of these cities lies a pulse of rivalry, quiet, patient, and inevitable. Power, like rain, must be shared, but it also floods and recedes. In the cool shadow of a temple stairway, two nobles speak in low tones. They talk of Calakmul, the great serpent kingdom rising far to the north, and of its ambitions to rival Tikal's might. Already, the balance begins to shift. The jungle, which once held only harmony, now whispers of competition. Yet the Maya understand that struggle is part of the cycle. Creation, destruction, renewal. Even war is woven into the pattern of the cosmos. As dusk approaches, the city changes its voice. The white stones blush with color. The sky deepens to amber and violet. Bats flutter between temple peaks, catching insects in the fading light. Torches are lit, casting warm halos across the plazas. The people gather once more. Tonight, the priests will retell the story of the gods who gave their own blood to shape humanity. And in return, the people offer a few drops of theirs, a gesture of gratitude, of balance. The music begins again. Drums, flutes, the soft rattle of shells. Dancers move in circles, their feathers catching the firelight. Smoke drifts upward in thin silver ribbons. To the watching crowd, the dancers' shadows merge with the rising flames, forming shapes that look almost alive. The spirits of the ancestors joining the ceremony. It is in these moments that time itself seems to pause. The line between the mortal and the divine blurs like the horizon at sunset. The city becomes a living offering, every sound and movement part of an unending conversation with the cosmos. If you close your eyes, you can almost hear it. The rhythm of drums like a heartbeat through stone. The soft crackle of fire. The low murmur of prayer carried on the wind. What would you feel standing there among them? Awe, peace. The strange comfort of knowing that your place in the universe is not random, but written into the pattern of stars. And as night settles over the plazas, the rulers retreat into their chambers, the fires dim, and the sky becomes their ceiling once more. The stars above Tikal shine bright, their reflections trembling in still pools of rainwater gathered at the base of the temples. The smoke thins, the city sleeps. Only the cicadas and the wind continue their endless song. But beyond this peace, something unseen is taking shape. Ambition grows. Rival kings rise in distant jungles, each carving his own vision of eternity into stone. The balance that once united the Maya world begins to tremble, faintly, almost imperceptibly, like the hush before a storm. For now, the night hides it all beneath its velvet calm. The fires die down, the drums fall silent, and the people of dawn and smoke drift into dreams of victory and rain. Tomorrow, new temples will rise. Tomorrow, another city will challenge the heavens. And beneath it all, the jungle will listen, patient, ancient, waiting for the next turning of time. The night breaks with thunder, low and distant at first, then nearer, rolling through the forest like the slow turning of a giant's breath. Rain begins to fall, soft, cool, relentless, drumming upon the roofs of plastered temples, seeping through the leaves, washing over the faces of carved stone gods who have seen centuries rise and fall beneath their gaze. In this world, rain is more than weather. It is life, forgiveness, promise. Each drop carries the voice of Chak, the rain-bringer, the lord of storm and renewal. And to the people of the great cities, that voice must be honoured, even answered. High atop the temples of Tikal, the rulers stand beneath canopies of feathers and jade. Their eyes glint with torchlight as the storm clouds swirl above. Below, thousands gather, heads bowed, faces turned upward into the cleansing downpour. The rulers raise their arms to the heavens, speaking words learned from ancestors and priests, words that balance power with devotion. The Maya king is not merely a man, he is the pivot of the world. He binds the gods and the people together, ensuring that the rain will fall, the maize will grow, the sun will rise again. His blood is the thread that sews heaven and earth into harmony, and so, on days of ceremony, he offers it freely, a few drops drawn from his own flesh, placed upon strips of bark, and burned so that the smoke may reach the gods. To modern ears this might sound strange, but to the Maya it is the most sacred of exchanges, a sign of gratitude, of cosmic reciprocity. To give one's own lifeblood is to mirror the divine creation itself, when the gods shed their essence to form humankind. It is not cruelty, it is covenant, lightning splits the sky, illuminating the faces of priests painted blue and white. Drums echo like thunder, steady, measured. Copal smoke rises thick and fragrant, mixing with the scent of wet earth. In the crowd, eyes glisten, not from fear, but from awe. Every sound, every movement, every breath is part of the ritual rhythm that keeps the world alive. If you could stand there among them, what would you feel? The weight of reverence in the air, the unity of thousands breathing as one beneath the storm, or perhaps the strange comfort of knowing that even kings must give something of themselves to keep the balance of life intact. When the ceremony ends, the rain slows to a mist. The rulers descend the temple steps in silence, their cloaks darkened with water, their faces calm. To them, this is not spectacle, it is duty. For the Maya world is built upon reciprocity, the giving and receiving that flows like water through every level of existence. From gods to kings, from kings to people, from people to earth. All things are part of the same circle. In the days that follow, the rain blesses the fields. Maize rises green and tall, bending beneath the wind like an ocean of emerald waves. The farmers smile, their gratitude whispered in quiet songs as they tend to the harvest. The people know that the storm has listened. Meanwhile, within the palaces of stone, the life of the royal court moves with equal rhythm and ceremony. Scribes sit cross-legged in shaded rooms, their brushes tracing the deeds of rulers on plaster and bark paper. They record births, coronations, alliances, and victories, every act an offering to eternity. These scribes know that to write is to preserve balance, for memory is the spirit's way of ensuring that no action ever truly fades. In one such room, a young prince studies the glyphs under his tutor's gaze. He learns that his lineage is divine, descended from the first ancestors who shaped the world. He learns that leadership is not privilege, but burden, that to rule means to serve both people and gods. And though he is barely old enough to lift a spear, he already understands that his life is bound by a duty older than the cities themselves. Beyond the palace walls, the sound of construction continues. New temples rise. New plazas take form. The scent of wet limestone fills the air. Masons chip away at massive blocks, aligning them with the path of the sun. Each structure is both practical and sacred, a vessel for ritual and meaning. At sunset, the workers rest. They sit together in the cooling light, sharing maize cakes and cacao. The laughter of children mingles with the chatter of birds returning to their nests. For a few hours, before night fully descends, the city feels tender, almost intimate. A place not only of kings and priests, but of families, artisans, and dreamers. And then, as darkness spreads like ink across the horizon, the torches flare to life once more. The sound of drums returns, slower now, echoing from temple to temple like a heartbeat. Tonight, the rulers will speak to the gods of war, not in violence, but in preparation. For even within this golden age, rival cities watch one another with wary eyes. In Calakmul, the serpent kings are rising, ambitious, powerful, and patient. Their banners of jade and jaguar skins catch the wind, shimmering in the torchlight. Messengers travel between Tikal and its allies, carrying warnings, proposals, and omens. Every alliance is fragile, every victory temporary. The balance that sustains the world must now stretch to contain the hearts of men. Yet even in conflict, the Maya find meaning. For war, too, is part of the cycle, destruction that makes room for rebirth. To capture an enemy is not simply triumph, but opportunity. To restore cosmic order through ritual, through offering. The Maya do not fight for conquest alone. They fight for balance, for the gods' attention, for the rain itself. And so, when the dry season lingers too long and the rivers shrink to mirrors of dust, the kings consult their astronomers. They gaze upon the heavens for signs. Venus, the bright star of morning, is said to bring both renewal and war. When it rises, gleaming like a blade above the horizon, drums begin to sound in the cities of men. Beneath that star, kings meet beneath banners of smoke. They speak not in anger, but in certainty. The gods have written their paths among the constellations, and mortals must follow. Armies march through the forest, their footsteps muffled by fallen leaves. The air hums with anticipation, but never frenzy. For in the Maya world, even conflict must serve harmony. When the rains return, they fall heavy and long, washing the fields clean of dust, cleansing both land and soul. Crops sprout once more, temples glisten, and for a while, peace returns, fragile, shining, beautiful. The people believe that the gods are pleased. Their prayers rise with the mist each morning. Their offerings glow in the flicker of torchlight each night. They live with the comfort of belonging to a pattern larger than themselves. Every seed, every drop of blood, every word carved into stone, all of it sustains the living rhythm of creation. If you close your eyes, you can hear it still. The rain falling softly through the trees. The deep roll of thunder fading into the hills. The rustle of palm leaves against limestone. A world in motion, yet always at peace with itself. As the storm drifts away, the sky clears to reveal a field of stars. The moon reflects off the wet stone, and the temples of Tikal gleam pale and ghostly. In the silence that follows, the people sleep. Their dreams filled with rivers and gods, with cornfields and constellations, with the eternal balance of giving and receiving. The rulers rest too, beneath their carved lintels and painted ceilings, the scent of copal still lingering in the air. Tomorrow they will rise again, to lead, to pray, to build. For they are the lords of blood and rain, keepers of harmony, guardians of the fragile bridge between heaven and earth. And though the thunder fades into memory, the echo of their world endures. Steady, cyclical, eternal, like rain returning to the sea. Morning returns with a silver light. The rain has passed, leaving the world rinsed and breathing. Drops still cling to the tips of palm leaves, trembling before they fall. Mist curls between the temples, softening their edges until they seem to float, half real, half dream. The city awakens slowly. Smoke rises from hearths where maize cakes sizzle on clay griddles. Children laugh in courtyards slick with rainwater. The air smells of charcoal and wet stone, the scent of renewal. In the palace courtyards and shaded workshops, another rhythm begins to stir. The rhythm of creation, not in battle or ritual, but in record and art. Here dwell the weavers of time, the scribes, sculptors, painters, and astronomers who will ensure that the memory of their world never fades. They are not warriors, yet their tools are sacred. A reed brush, a carving blade, a shard of obsidian sharper than any sword. Through them, moments become immortal. Inside a narrow chamber lined with shells and pigment pots, a scribe kneels before a sheet of bark paper. He dips his brush into black ink made from soot and honey. Each stroke flows like water, curves, dots, lines that twist into meaning. To an outsider they may seem abstract, but within each symbol lies a story, a birth, a prophecy, a day counted from the beginning of creation. He pauses often to breathe, for writing is more than record. It is prayer. Every glyph must be drawn in harmony, balanced between heaven and earth. He whispers the words as he paints them, giving voice to the silent marks. The brush moves again, and time continues its journey across the page. Outside, another artist works upon stone. He chisels a stela taller than 2 men, his hammer falling in a rhythm that echoes across the plaza. Chips of limestone glitter in the sun like fragments of bone. Each strike reveals the face of a ruler, the curve of a serpent, the arc of a celestial sign. When he steps back, the carving glows pale against the dark jungle behind it. A story captured in silence, meant to last beyond memory. Can you hear it? The scrape of stone, the whisper of brush on bark, the low murmur of concentration shared between generations. If you walked among them, what would you feel first? The hum of purpose in the air, or the stillness that surrounds such devotion? Far above, the astronomers climb their narrow stairways to the observatories. From these high terraces, they watch the sky unfold like an enormous codex. They note the rise of Venus, the dance of the Pleiades, the long shadow of the equinox sun as it slides down the stairway of a temple. Every movement of the heavens is recorded, not as curiosity, but as communion. The stars are teachers, the moon a messenger. To know their patterns is to hear the whisper of creation itself. One night, as clouds drift apart, a young astronomer marks a star's return after many cycles. He smiles, knowing his teacher predicted this moment decades ago. Time proves faithful. He turns to the stone beside him and inscribes a date that will echo through centuries. Proof that the sky and the human heart move in harmony. Below, the city glows with torchlight. From each home comes the murmur of stories told before sleep. Grandparents speak of the hero twins, of their descent into the underworld, and their triumph through wit and courage. Children listen wide-eyed, tracing patterns in the dust with their fingers, repeating the names of gods and heroes until they become part of their own breath. The scribes and artists of the Maya world do not think of time as a straight road. They see it as woven fabric, threads of days, moons, and seasons crossing and looping back upon themselves. The Tzolk'in and Harb calendars are the warp and weft of this grand design. To live well is to keep those threads in balance, never letting one fray or tangle. And so, the weavers of time measure every event with care. A marriage, a battle, a harvest, a birth, all are placed within the calendar's pattern so that the gods may see the order they have made. Each date is a knot in the fabric of eternity. Sometimes, the scribes gather in quiet council. They sit around low tables covered with folded codices and carved shells. One recites a lineage, another calculates the interval between eclipses. Their speech is calm, precise, filled with numbers that carry the weight of belief. They are historians and prophets both. Their task not to predict chaos, but to prevent it by keeping the world's rhythm steady. If you could sit among them, Would you speak or simply listen? Would you follow the movement of their hands as they point to the heavens, describing how the gods walk their invisible paths across the sky? Would you feel the hush that falls whenever a new pattern is discovered? A breath held between wonder and reverence. Art blossoms everywhere. Walls are painted in red, blue, and gold. Scenes of rulers beneath feathered umbrellas, of dancers wearing jaguar pelts, of gods with faces both human and animal. Pottery tells the same stories in smaller scale, carrying myth into daily life. When families drink from painted cups, they touch history with every sip. Music fills the plazas, drums, flutes, rattles made from seeds and shells. It is said that sound pleases the gods as much as smoke and scent. Every festival becomes a living tapestry of motion and colour. Masks flash in firelight. Dancers trace circles that mirror the spinning of planets above. Even celebration becomes a form of record, a memory stored in rhythm rather than in words. Through these creations, the Maya leave traces of their hearts as well as their hands. A painted vessel, a carved lintel, a star chart etched on stone. Each one a small defiance against forgetting. They know that time devours everything, but they also know how to speak to it, to remind it gently to remember. In the quieter hours, when the torches burn low and the jungle hums its endless lullaby, some of the artists dream of what lies beyond their own lifetimes. They wonder who will read their glyphs when they are gone, who will understand the stories carved into the temples. Perhaps the gods will read them. Perhaps their descendants will. Perhaps even strangers, far beyond the end of their calendar, will come searching among the vines and fallen stones, trying to hear the voices hidden there. The thought does not frighten them. It comforts them, for to be remembered, even by unknown eyes, is to live again within the circle of time. Elsewhere, the astronomers watch another dawn rise. The eastern sky turns the colour of maize. Birds erupt from the canopy in great flocks, their wings catching the first gold of morning. The lead astronomer closes his eyes and listens to the rhythm of wings. It matches the rhythm of his heartbeat, and for a moment he feels the whole world breathing with him. He opens his codex and marks the new day. A number, a symbol, a line in the endless pattern. Far below, a scribe finishes a manuscript begun by his father. He adds a single glyph, the word for completion, and sets his brush aside. When he exhales, the ink shivers and dries. He feels peace, knowing that what he has written will outlast the fragile span of his own life. He smiles softly and whispers, "Let time remember." The sun climbs higher. Its light spills across the city, striking the faces of temples and statues. Each beam touches the carved dates and glints along the edges of the glyphs, as if time itself were acknowledging its keepers. If you listen closely now, you can almost hear the whisper of those ancient brushes and chisels still moving somewhere beneath the earth. You can feel the patience of hands that measured stars and carved eternity into stone. The weavers of time have finished their work for the day, but their rhythm continues in the rustle of leaves, in the passing of clouds, in the quiet certainty that nothing beautiful is ever truly lost. As twilight returns, the city glows again, gentle and golden. Smoke drifts upward from the hearths, carrying the scent of maize and ink, of copal and rain. The scribes close their codices. The astronomers roll up their bark scrolls, and as the first stars appear, they lift their faces to the sky, whispering thanks to the gods who have allowed them to trace the heartbeat of the universe. For tonight, they rest, calm, fulfilled, certain. Tomorrow, they will write again, watch again, carve again. For theirs is a labour without end, a weaving that binds past and future together in one endless thread. And somewhere, in the deep hush between dusk and dawn, the world turns once more, softly, precisely, beautifully, just as they measured it. The forest wakes before the people do. Mist rises from the soil, slow and luminous, coiling through roots older than memory. 1,000 birds call at once, their cries overlapping like ripples in water. Beneath them, the breath of the earth is warm and fragrant. Leaf mould, orchids, rain. Then comes the faintest sound of footsteps, the hush of bare feet against wet paths. In the grey light, farmers step from their homes of thatched palm. Each carries a bundle of maize seed, bright as sunlight against the green. Their faces are calm. They have walked this path since the world began. They are the quiet pulse beneath the grandeur, the heart of the great forest. Without them, no temple would rise, no ceremony would burn its fragrant smoke toward the sky. They move in rhythm with the seasons, following the circle of planting and harvest as faithfully as the priests follow the stars. When the moon grows thin, they cut and clear small fields, leaving the great trees untouched like guardians. They work with stone blades and patience, turning the jungle soil until it smells sweet and new. Children gather fallen branches for fuel. The old watch the horizon for the first returning rains. When thunder murmurs from the east, everyone smiles. They lift their faces to the darkening clouds, whispering thanks to Chak. Soon the storm comes. Warm drops strike their skin, heavy and generous. The maize seeds are pressed into the soft earth, and the field begins its secret work. In the evenings, when the rain has passed and the frogs begin their chorus, families sit together outside their homes. The air is cool now, filled with the scent of smoke and flowers. A pot of maize stew bubbles over the fire. Someone plays a simple tune on a wooden flute. There is laughter, gentle, unhurried. Grandparents tell stories. Small hands shape clay figurines of jaguars and birds. Life here is made of small comforts, of rhythms steady enough to calm the soul. Far off, the temples of the city rise above the canopy, their peaks glowing faintly in the moonlight. Yet even the rulers depend on the harvest from these quiet clearings. The greatness of the Maya world begins here, in humble fields bordered by vines and song. Can you see it? The shimmer of fireflies above the maize, the low hum of cicadas that never truly stops. Would you choose to sit near the fire and listen, or to wander into the dark forest where every shadow seems alive? By day, the artisans labour in the workshops that line the plazas. A potter's wheel turns beneath her steady hands. Clay dark as cocoa slides between her fingers, rising into graceful shapes that will carry food, incense, and water. She decorates each piece with red slip and fine black lines, spirals, maize leaves, the face of a god. Nearby, a weaver tightens the threads of a backstrap loom. The cloth grows bright with patterns of turquoise and flame. Each design repeats the geometry of the stars, the same shapes the astronomers trace above. The weaver hums under her breath, the shuttle clicking in time with her heartbeat. For every stone carved in honor of kings, 100 hands create the tools, fabrics, and vessels that make daily life possible. Their artistry is not celebrated with ceremony, yet it endures. woven into every household and every prayer. When the midday heat grows fierce, the streets empty. Even the parrots fall silent. The city dozes under the weight of sun, and the forest seems to hold its breath. In shaded courtyards, women grind maize on heavy stones. The steady rhythm, grind, fold, pat, cook, echoes the heartbeat of the land. Each tortilla that browns over the fire is an offering of its own. Water jars cool in the shadows. A boy chases iguanas through the dust. Somewhere a dog barks, and the sound rolls lazily through the still air. These are the moments that hold the world together, not the wars or the coronations, but the quiet persistence of living. As evening comes, the air changes again. Bats flit between the trees. The river, swollen from the morning's rain, glows with reflected stars. Canoes slip across its surface, paddles moving soundlessly. In one canoe, traders carry baskets of salt and cacao. In another, musicians on their way to a festival cradle their drums like sleeping children. The waterways are the veins of the Maya world, connecting distant cities through the dark heart of the forest. Along the banks, fishermen light small torches that float upon the water, their reflections drifting like fallen constellations. The air smells of smoke and honey. Somewhere deep in the trees, a jaguar roars, a sound so deep it seems to come from the earth itself. The Maya know the forest as both home and mystery. Its silence hides spirits, its roots hold secrets older than kings. When they enter its depths, they move with reverence, leaving offerings of maize or feathers at the mouths of caves. They say these caverns lead to the underworld, Xibalba, the place of beginnings, not of terror. Inside, the air is cool and damp. Stalactites drip like slow clocks, each drop marking centuries. The people light torches of pine resin, the flames flickering orange on the wet stone. Murals on the walls show gods of rain and fertility, painted by hands that believed art could bridge worlds. Even here, beneath the surface, they feel the same pulse as in the fields above, the endless cycle of growth and return. On feast days, the villagers travel to the city. They bring baskets of fruit and flowers, cloth dyed in bright hues, and small clay idols to offer at the temples. The journey is long, but the air is alive with anticipation. As they approach, the sound of drums grows louder, rolling through the trees like thunder. The plazas are already crowded, merchants calling, dancers spinning, incense drifting in heavy clouds. Children stare upward at the temple steps, amazed by the height, by the shimmer of sunlight on jade ornaments. For them, this is not just spectacle, it is belonging. They are part of something vast and beautiful, a civilization rooted in both heaven and earth. As the ceremonies begin, the farmers bow their heads, whispering their thanks. They know their labor feeds this brilliance. Without the maize they plant, the gods themselves would grow hungry. Their pride is quiet but profound. When night falls, the forest once again wraps the city in darkness. The torches burn low, the songs fade, and the long journey home begins. The villagers walk by starlight, their feet finding the path by memory. Fireflies flicker around them like fragments of blessing. Generations pass this way. Fathers teach sons how to read the clouds. Mothers show daughters how to weave rain into cloth. Children learn which plants soothe fever, which trees hold drinkable water, which birds carry omens in their flight. The Maya live not beside the forest but within it, sharing its breath. They understand that to take is to give back. When a tree is cut, another is planted. When an animal is hunted, its spirit is thanked. Their survival depends upon this covenant. and they honor it with every act of care. At night, when the moon climbs high and the jungle hums its endless lullaby, the people sleep lightly, attuned to every sound. A chorus of frogs, the whisper of wind through palm leaves, the distant boom of a howler monkey. These are the songs that cradle them. Sometimes lying awake, they think of the great temples beyond the trees, and of the kings who speak with gods. But they feel no envy. Their lives, too, are sacred. Their offerings are in their labor, their patience, their love. If you listen closely now, you can almost hear the soft rustle of 1,000 lives breathing together. Farmers, weavers, traders, children. Their names are not carved into stone, yet their hands shaped everything that endures. They are the roots beneath the marble bloom of empire, the unseen strength that lets a civilization reach toward the sky. The forest exhales. Mist curls once more across the sleeping fields. Somewhere an owl calls, low and mournful. The sound drifts through doorways, settles into dreams. Tomorrow will bring the same gentle rituals, the grinding of maize, the tending of crops, the hum of work that keeps the circle unbroken. For this is the heart of the great forest, life quiet and continuous, time moving not in triumph but in tenderness. The air is heavy with heat and perfume. From the forest canopy rise white towers that seem to touch the sky, their summits veiled in thin blue smoke. Parrots wheel above them in flashes of emerald and scarlet. Somewhere a conch shell calls, a single long note that drifts across miles of green. This is the age of the serpent kingdoms, the high flowering of Maya power. Temples climb higher than the trees, cities stretch farther than sight. Roads paved with white limestone bind the jungle together, shining in the sun like ribbons of moonlight fallen to earth. At dawn, the plazas fill with sound, the beat of drums, the chatter of markets, the chanting of priests. Life here is rhythm, measured, intricate, unending. Yet behind that harmony lies a quiet contest, a rivalry written not in hatred, but in destiny. In the great lowland city of Tikal, kings trace their lineage to the gods of the east, the lords of the rising sun. Their banners blaze with the image of the jaguar, the hunter whose steps are silence, whose eyes see through darkness. Far to the north, hidden within a sea of trees, another power awakens. Calakmul, the kingdom of the serpent. Its emblem is carved upon doorways and shields alike, a snake devouring the sun, symbol of wisdom and renewal. Between them stretches an invisible web of alliances and feuds. Messengers hurry along the white causeways carrying words sealed with jade and wax, marriage proposals, declarations of peace, warnings thinly veiled as friendship. Every agreement, every betrayal, is part of the game of balance, the same balance that governs the stars above. On the morning of a coronation, Calakmul hums like a hive. Drums throb beneath the stone terraces. The scent of copal thickens the air. From the royal palace emerges the new king, his forehead bound high, his ears heavy with discs of jade. Feathers of the quetzal sweep behind him in a shimmering green wave. He ascends the temple stairs slowly, barefoot upon the cool stone. Each step is a prayer. At the summit, he turns to face the horizon where the sun breaks through cloud. The light strikes his ornaments until he seems woven from it. In that moment, the people below lift their voices. The king spreads his hands, palms open to the dawn. He is no longer merely a man. He is the hinge between worlds. For the Maya, kings are living symbols, walking calendars, human mirrors of celestial order. Their triumphs are inscribed upon the sky itself. When they lead armies, they march as avatars of the gods. When they plant maize, it is the earth itself that kneels before them. In Tikal, a rival ruler watches the heavens for omens. Night after night, his astronomers mark the slow movement of Venus, counting the days until it rises as the morning star, a sign long associated with war. When that day comes, the king stands upon his pyramid and whispers to the wind, "It is time." Across the jungle, torches flicker like scattered constellations as messengers race through the dark. Yet even war begins with ceremony. Before dawn, priests sprinkle water upon the soldiers' heads, blessing them with the strength of jaguar and serpent alike. Offerings are laid at the feet of Chayak to ensure that rain will follow victory. When armies meet, the forest itself seems to hold its breath. Spears of wood tipped with obsidian flash in the sun, brilliant but brittle. The air shudders with the cry of conch shells and the steady rhythm of drums. And then, silence again, as swift as it began. In that silence, the balance tilts, just enough to shape history. But conquest among the Maya is not destruction. It is negotiation by other means. Cities rise, fall, and rise again, bound by tribute, marriage, and shared ceremony. When peace returns, envoys bring gifts, woven cloth, carved jade, feathers from distant mountains. Alliances are renewed beneath banners of gold and green. Dancers move through the plazas, their steps tracing the pattern of reconciliation. The serpent kings of Calakmul and the jaguar lords of Tikal will trade victories for generations. Neither will truly destroy the other. Each needs the other's strength to define its own. Like day and night, they chase one another across the centuries. Between the great capitals, smaller cities bloom: Palanque, Copan, Dos Pilas, Yachilan, each with its own lords, its own sculptors, its own vision of the divine. The jungles echo with the sound of chisels, with prayers turned into stone. In Palanque, a young ruler named Kinich Janab Pakal dreams of immortality not through conquest, but through art. His temples are slender, filled with light. Walls are carved not with scenes of war, but with the story of his birth, his ancestors, his journey among the gods. When he dies, his people lay him to rest beneath a pyramid whose walls glow with green mosaic, the face of maize reborn. Can you picture it? The hush of the burial chamber, the flicker of torchlight on jade, the sound of priests chanting low. Outside, rain begins to fall, soft as breath upon stone. The forest grows still, as though listening. Centuries pass in this rhythm of glory and renewal. The Maya calendar marks the turning of each great cycle. Kings rise and fall, but the pattern endures. From the mountains of Chiapas to the coasts of Belize, the serpent symbol spreads, part legend, part lineage, a mark of prestige whispered through the trees. In the markets, merchants trade stories alongside their goods. One tells of a palace where walls are painted with the map of the heavens. Another of a queen who ruled in wisdom while her husband fought in distant lands. The people repeat these tales with pride, for every story adds a new thread to the fabric of Maya identity. And always, above the bustle of daily life, the observatories watch. Priests climb their narrow stairs to greet the dawn, marking the return of Venus, the turning of the equinox, the endless proof that heaven and earth remain in step. If you could stand upon one of those high terraces at sunset, you would see a world without end. The horizon glows copper and rose. The cries of howler monkeys echo like distant drums. From every direction rises the faint haze of cooking fires, each one a sign of life, of home. You might feel a kind of awe, but also serenity. The people below move through their routines with certainty born of generations, tending fires, weaving cloth, teaching children the names of stars. They know who they are. They know the pattern they serve. And yet, even at the height of its brilliance, the Maya world carries the seeds of its own turning. The forest grows thinner near the cities. Fields stretch farther each year. The calendar priests whisper of omens in the heavens, a comet's sudden flare, an eclipse that darkens the noon sky. The kings respond with greater ceremony, greater offerings, greater hope. Still, beneath the music and the incense, a question begins to murmur like underground water. How long can the circle remain unbroken? For now, the serpent kingdoms still gleam. Calakmul's towers gleam silver in moonlight. Tikal's temples glow like embers after rain. Across the land, processions of torchlight wind through the plazas, serpentine and endless. The people lift their eyes to the stars, trusting that as long as they honor the pattern, the gods will honor them in return. Somewhere in the darkness, a scribe carves the date of this very night upon a stela. He does not know that one day it will stand half buried, vines creeping across its surface, the symbols worn smooth by centuries of rain. He only knows that the act of carving keeps time alive. The drums fade, the torches gutter out. The forest exhales its cool breath once more. Above it all, the constellations wheel in patient silence, the same stars that guided the first builders, the same that will one day shine upon their ruins. For the Maya, nothing truly ends. Every fall is the beginning of another ascent. Every silence is only the breath between words. And so, the age of the Serpent Kings closes its eyes, resting before the long dream to come. It begins not with thunder, but with silence. A stillness that settles over the valleys, soft at first, almost comforting. Then the rains falter. A day, a week, a month pass without the sky's familiar rhythm. The rivers shrink to mirrors of brown glass. The leaves hang limp, waiting. In the plazas, people lift their faces to the empty clouds. They speak the old prayers, scatter maize on the stones, burn resin that curls upward and fades too quickly. When no answer comes, they pray harder, their voices rising like smoke over the quiet roofs. The drought does not roar, it whispers. It creeps into every life like a slow forgetting. The maize ripens too soon, the beans shrivel, the wells taste of dust. Even the frogs grow silent. At first, the kings declare patience. The gods test the faithful, they say. The circle always turns. More temples are built, more ceremonies performed. Processions wind through the streets, torches gleaming in the dry wind. But each festival feels heavier, as if joy itself must be summoned by effort. In the workshops, the chisels fall quieter. Scribes record shorter histories. The stele speak of victories long past rather than hopes ahead. On certain nights, fires flicker on the horizon. Villages moving, searching for kinder ground. The jungle reclaims what they leave behind. Vines thickening around doorways, roots pushing through floors. It is not one city that falters, but many. One by one, the great centers dim, their voices fading like stars before dawn. Tikal, once the roar of the jungle, grows thin with hunger. Calakmul lies restless, its serpents carved in stone watching the empty courtyards. The trade routes weaken, the white roads crack beneath weeds. The people still believe in balance, yet balance now feels far away, somewhere beyond the horizon where the rain has gone. Inside a quiet palace, a queen walks the length of a hall painted with old triumphs, battles, coronations, dances of plenty. The colours have dulled, flakes of plaster fall like snow. She touches the wall and whispers a prayer, not for victory, but for endurance. Outside, the city still glows with the last of its grandeur. The towers remain proud, the carvings intricate, the plazas wide. But listen closely. Between the drums, there is hesitation. Between the chants, breath. The ceremonies continue, yet the faith within them feels thinner, stretched across too many fears. When the rains return, they come wrong, too heavy, too sudden. Rivers burst their banks, washing away fields newly planted. The gods, it seems, are not angry, only distant, unpredictable. The people accept this with quiet sorrow. Even chaos has its place in the circle. But the rulers argue. Each blames another. Rival kings raid for food and captives, seeking favour from heavens that will not listen. Villages fortify their walls. Travellers move at night, keeping close to the shadow of trees. The great roads once bright with pilgrims grow wild with weeds and thorns. Still, life persists. Mothers teach children the names of constellations. Fathers carve small altars beside the hearth. They may no longer reach the gods through temples, but they can still reach them through memory. In the evenings, when the air cools, they light small fires and tell stories of the world's first creation, how light rose from darkness and how it will do so again. Can you see them? The glow of a single fire amid endless green, the silhouettes of families gathered close, faces lit with hope more than flame. What would you whisper to them if you could? The scribes do not stop writing. Even as food grows scarce, they record each passing day, each alignment of stars, each omen. On bark paper pages they note drought, rebellion, movement. The rain delayed, one writes. The people journeyed south. Another adds a single glyph meaning change. In hidden valleys, new communities form, smaller, quieter, built of wood instead of stone. They plant near streams that still flow. They carry with them their gods, their songs, their calendar. Civilization does not vanish. It scatters, seeking shade like roots after fire. Within abandoned cities, the jungle returns. Seeds drift upon the wind, finding cracks in the stone. Rain fills the empty courtyards, mirrors reflecting broken stairways. Trees push through temples. Moss covers the carved faces of kings until they look like ghosts smiling beneath green veils. At first, a few guardians remain. Old priests who cannot leave their gods. Families who refuse to abandon their ancestors' tombs. They live among the ruins, tending small gardens where the plazas once thronged. At night, they hear the wind sigh through hollow corridors, carrying the echoes of ceremonies long ended. The sound is not mournful. It is gentle, like the ocean withdrawing from shore. Far away on the coast, other Maya cities flourish for a time. Chichen Itza, Uxmal, Mayapan, heirs to a fractured legacy. Traders still sail the turquoise waters, bringing salt and obsidian and tales of lands untouched by drought. The world has not ended. It has shifted. breathing in a new rhythm. But the heartlands of the old empire fall quiet. The forest closes over them like a mother's hand. The bright roads fade, the towers crumble, and the stelae that once announced kings and conquests become part of the soil again. To later eyes it will seem sudden, mysterious, a collapse. Yet to those who lived it, it was simply time moving as it always had, weaving decay into creation. The gods sleep, the forest dreams, the people adapt. One evening, centuries later, a traveller stumbles upon a ruin. The air is thick with humidity. The cries of monkeys echo through the trees. He finds a carved face half buried in moss. Beneath his fingers, the stone is cool, smooth. For a moment, he feels that it breathes. He cannot read the glyphs, but he senses their meaning, that nothing is lost, only transformed. The jungle has not conquered the Maya. It has embraced them, folded them back into the fabric of the world. Vines curl over their stairways as if writing new verses in green. The ceiba trees stand sentinel, roots gripping the ruins like guardians of memory. Rain begins again, soft, patient, endless. It pools in the hollows of carved stones, filling them like eyes opening after a long sleep. From the soil, small shoots of maize appear, bright and defiant. Life continues as it always has, in cycles too vast for despair. If you listen now, in the hush after rainfall, you might almost hear them. The faint beat of a distant drum, the echo of footsteps upon temple stairs, the whisper of a language still alive in the wind. The Maya have not vanished. They have only changed form, becoming rain, becoming forest, becoming story. The sky clears, stars shimmer through the canopy. Each one marks a chapter that has closed and another waiting to begin. The night smells of wet earth and new beginnings. The collapse, they say, came in slow rain, but it was not an ending. It was the earth turning the page. The rains have returned, but they fall now upon a different land. The jungle's breath lingers behind like a fading dream, and ahead rise mountains, soft blue in the morning light, hard and cold by nightfall. Clouds drift low across the ridges, brushing the trees like ghosts of the old world. Here, in these highlands, new hearths glow. The people who fled the drought and silence of the lowlands have found valleys where water still sings. Rivers rush bright and cold through the stones. The air smells of pine instead of palm. They build again, not with towering pyramids, but with terraces, plazas, and homes of cut basalt that hold the warmth of the sun. The forest has not forgotten them. It follows in smaller form, ferns, orchids, the murmur of insects. But the sound of wind through pines is different, sharper, cleaner. When the first fires are lit, the smoke climbs straight into the chill sky, as if eager to announce that the Maya still endure. Each morning, the villagers gather before dawn. The women wrap themselves in woven shawls, bright as the birds that once flew above Tikal. Men set out for the terraces, their breath turning to mist. The sound of hoes striking earth echoes down the slopes, steady, familiar. The gods they know have followed them here, wearing new faces in the mountains. Their calendars still turn. Their prayers still rise with the smoke. Only the scenery has changed. In the cool highland valleys, maize grows beside beans and squash. Llamas and deer graze near the edges of the fields. Children play among stones that glitter with mica. And at night, when the firelight flickers, the elders retell the stories of the ancestors who built the cities now hidden beneath vines. Remember them, the old ones say, for they built with stars, and we build with memory. Among these new settlements, one grows brighter than the rest. Copan, nestled in a fertile valley of Honduras. Its rulers claim descent from the ancient kings of the lowlands, and though their city is smaller, their vision is vast. They carve temples that seem to climb through mist rather than jungle. On the stairway of one great pyramid, 1,000 glyphs rise like a river of words, the longest inscription the Maya will ever leave behind. Each symbol is cut with reverence. Together they tell the story of dynasties, of gods, of time itself unbroken. To walk those steps is to climb through history. Rain pools in the hollows of the carvings, making the glyphs shimmer as though alive. Elsewhere, farther north, Chichen Itza begins its long ascent. Traders bring salt from the coasts, obsidian from the mountains, and tales from lands the old kings never saw. The city hums with new energy, a fusion of belief and innovation. Columns replace solid walls, plazas widen, ball courts echo with the slap of rubber against stone. The sound of the game carries across the valley, a pulse of life where silence once reigned. Can you imagine standing among them? The chill wind tugging at your cloak, the scent of pine resin on the air, the distant clang of tools against stone. You might feel that the world has changed, yet the rhythm is the same. People plant, build, trade, sing. The cycle continues. At night, they still watch the heavens. The stars seem closer here, bright and sharp in the mountain air. Priests climb the small observatories and measure the moon's shadow along the temple walls. They whisper the same words their ancestors once spoke in the lowlands, though few now remember where those words began. Sometimes they wonder if the gods can hear them as clearly through this thin, cold sky. But when the wind shifts and the rain falls true, they know the balance still holds. In the markets of the new cities, colour returns. Women spread cloth dyed with indigo and cochineal. Traders from the coast arrive with shells and honey. From the mountains come copper bells that chime softly in the breeze. The air is alive with scent, roasted maize, cacao, the sweetness of fruit warmed by sun. Musicians play flutes carved from bone, their melodies curling through the crowd like smoke. The songs are old, but their tempo is new, livelier, defiant, full of hope. Even the language begins to shift. The speech of one valley differs from the next, yet all carry the same pulse of memory. Words bend like branches, but the roots remain strong. The people laugh easily, as if to prove that joy itself is a kind of survival. In Copan, the rulers commission new monuments. One depicts the king not as a conqueror, but as a teacher seated before his people. His hands are open, his gaze serene. Another shows the maize god reborn from the earth, his hair sprouting into leaves. Hope, not fear, guides these chisels. Artists carve birds with wings spread wide across the temple lintels, as if the city itself could take flight. The stone gleams pale blue in the morning light. Though storms and time will one day wear it down, the intention remains, to remind the people that endurance is itself divine. Yet the Highlands are not free from struggle. The soil is thin, the nights grow cold. From beyond the ridges come new tribes, speaking strange tongues, seeking their own share of land and sky. Trade routes shift again. Power passes from city to city like a torch carried through mist. Still, the people hold to their calendars, their rituals, their quiet faith in the circle of renewal. When drought threatens, they climb the hills to light fires, calling to the clouds. When rains flood the terraces, they rebuild. When war comes, they pray for balance, not revenge. Because they have seen what happens when pride outweighs patience. They remember the fall of the great forest cities. The lesson lives within them like the heartbeat of the earth. All glory must bend toward humility, or it will vanish into vines. One evening, a scribe in Copan finishes his last inscription. He writes of lineage, of the passage of the cartoons, of kings who honored the gods and the land alike. His final line is simple: we remain. Then he sets down his chisel and listens to the rain begin outside. The sound is gentle, steady. He smiles, for it means the gods still listen. Far across the Highlands, others are listening too. In hidden valleys, farmers plant by torchlight. Children chase fireflies along the terraces. The scent of cooking fills the cold air. And beyond all of them, the wind carries the same eternal lullaby through the pines. A reminder that the world, even when changed, is still whole. If you close your eyes now, you can almost feel the warmth of their fires against the mountain chill. Hear the murmur of families telling stories in the dark. See the thin thread of smoke rise into a sky littered with stars so bright they seem to hum. The Maya have learned to live between worlds, between loss and renewal, forest and mountain, memory and tomorrow. They do not ask why the past has faded. They simply keep walking through the mist, carrying with them the names of gods, the rhythm of planting, the patience of stone. Because to them, survival is not a victory shouted from temples. It is a prayer spoken softly every dawn. When morning comes again, light spills over the ridges. The valleys glow gold. The terraces gleam with dew. Somewhere, a child laughs, the sound clear as water. And for one quiet moment, the mountains echo with a truth as old as time. Civilizations do not die. They change shape. The spirit that once built cities in the forest now beats within these highland hearts. The circle continues as it always has. Morning unfurls over the Yucatan like a veil of light. The sky is a pale, endless blue, the air warm with salt and sun. Waves whisper against the limestone shore, carrying the scent of distant lands. Here, the forest thins and the sea begins, a realm where earth and water share the throne. From the haze, a new city rises. Its towers are white as bone, its plazas vast and bright. Stone serpents coil along the stairways. Their scales shimmer in the heat. This is Chichen Itza, jewel of the north, an empire not of conquest alone, but of trade and memory. The people call it the mouth of the well of the Itza. Beneath the city lies the sacred cenote, a vast pool of water fed by the hidden rivers of the limestone plain. Around it, life gathers. Markets, temples, palaces, all bound by the shimmer of light upon the surface. Here the old beliefs meet the new tides of the world. Caravans of traders arrive from every direction. From the highlands come obsidian and feathers. From the coasts, salt and coral. From the distant lands of Tabasco, cacao and gold. Canoes slip across the shallows, their prows carved like serpent heads, their hulls heavy with goods and stories. In the markets, the air hums with voices, buyers calling, musicians playing, children laughing as they chase bright shells along the edges of the plaza. The smell of roasting maize mingles with the perfume of honey and copal. The city feels alive, like a living heartbeat echoing across stone. If you could stand among them, what would you notice first? The shimmer of turquoise beads at a merchant's throat, the glitter of sunlight on the sacred pool, or the strange peace that comes from knowing this bustle is not chaos, but harmony made visible. At the center of Chichen Itza stands the temple of Kukulkan, the feathered serpent. Each side faces a direction of the world, each stairway a path between heaven and earth. The architects built it as a calendar of stone. On the equinox, the afternoon sun strikes its western steps, casting a serpent-shaped shadow that slithers downward until light and darkness meet upon the carved head at the base. The people gather to watch, silent at first, then murmuring prayers of wonder. They see the gods moving again through their world, proving that order endures. The feathered serpent has descended. Balance is restored. High on the platform, priests scatter flowers into the wind. Their robes shimmer with green quetzal plumes, and the scent of copal drifts over the crowd. The drums begin, slow, deliberate, like the turning of time itself. This new empire is shaped by water. The Yucatan has no great rivers, only the hidden veins that run beneath its skin, the cenotes, deep wells of clear, still water. Each is sacred, for water is life and gateway both. Offerings are lowered into their depths. Jade beads, painted pottery, flowers, even, at times, the bones of those given in honor. The priests say that the wells are the eyes of the gods, gazing upward from the underworld. When you look into them, you see your own face reflected in eternity. Travelers speak of other marvels, courts where rubber balls echo between tall stone walls, murals that show the world as circle and cycle, pillars carved with warriors and stars. To walk through Chichen Itza is to walk through a book of stone, every chapter open to the sky. Beyond its walls, the empire stretches wide. The sea becomes its road. Canoes glide across the turquoise shallows toward Cozumel, toward Campeche, toward the islands that scatter across the horizon. Sailors steer by the rising of Venus, the same star their ancestors once watched from jungle observatories. They bring back stories of new gods, new people, new languages. Some tell of merchants from lands where the night is longer, where strangers wear metal ornaments that gleam like captured lightning. But the Maya listen with calm curiosity. The world is wide, they say, yet the sky is the same everywhere. In the cool shade of a columned hall, a philosopher priest teaches his students. The world, he says, is not stone or water alone. It is the meeting of both. Stone gives form, water gives life. Together they make endurance. His pupils nod, their eyes following the play of sunlight rippling across the floor. Outside, masons chip patiently at limestone blocks, fitting them so precisely that no mortar is needed. The sound of their work echoes like a soft heartbeat. Each strike of the chisel is both art and worship. The women weave beside open doorways, their looms bright with threads of scarlet and jade. They talk quietly of harvests and births, of omens in dreams. Life feels secure here, balanced, beautiful, full of motion, yet at peace. But beneath this harmony, change stirs once more. As centuries pass, new cities rise, Mayapan, Uxmal, Tulum, each claiming descent from Chichen Itza's greatness. The balance of trade shifts, alliances waver, even gods adopt new names. Where once kings ruled through divine right, now councils of nobles and merchants share power. The old astronomers record the same stars, but their interpretations differ. The calendar turns again toward uncertainty. Still, No one calls it decline. It is simply another rhythm, another breath in the long life of the Maya world. At dusk, the people light torches along the sea. From far away, the coastline glows like a string of amber beads. The waves lap gently against the stones. Above them, Venus burns bright, reflected in every pool and harbour. The eternal guide, the bright messenger between endings and beginnings. In the evening, the market's quiet. The scent of smoke drifts inland. Families gather near the wells, listening to the frogs sing in chorus. Children toss pebbles into the water and watch the ripples spread, widening until they disappear into perfect stillness. One child asks his mother, "Where do the ripples go?" She smiles, "Nowhere." They become part of the water, like we are part of time. The boy nods, thoughtful, and drops another pebble. The sound is soft, a single note in the symphony of night. As generations turn, the temples of Chichen Itza begin to fade. The plaster peels, the paint dulls, but the stone endures. Pilgrims still come to cast offerings into the sacred well. They whisper prayers for rain, for birth, for safe journeys. Their voices echo down into the blue depths, joining countless others before them. And somewhere beneath, unseen currents carry those words away, through caves and hidden rivers, through the veins of the earth, back toward the sea. The empire built upon stone and water does not vanish. It dissolves gently, becoming part of the landscape that first gave it life. Its temples remain as skeletons of beauty, its legends as reflections upon the surface of every pool and storm. If you listen now, when rain begins to fall upon limestone, you can still hear their rhythm. The drip of water through caverns, the hush of waves against shore, the low hum of a world that remembers. The Maya taught that time was never broken, only folded. The echo of their songs is folded still into the wind that moves through the ruins, into the sound of waves that never cease. So let the image linger. Stone gleaming wet under sun, water shimmering around it, and above, a sky that mirrors both. The empire has ended, but its reflection lives forever, a bridge of light between earth and sea, past and present, silence and song. The sea lies still, a mirror of sky. Morning drifts across the horizon in slow bands of silver and rose. Fishermen push their canoes into the shallows, paddles slicing the water with the same rhythm their ancestors used for centuries. The air smells of salt, mangrove, and wet limestone. Nothing seems different, yet somewhere beyond the curve of the world, a new wind begins to rise. For generations, the Maya have lived in the hush between sea and forest. They have built, traded, prayed, watched the stars turn. But now stories begin to travel with the traders. Tales of pale-faced strangers who sail in houses made of wood, whose sails bloom like enormous white flowers. Some say the strangers carry thunder in their hands. Others, that they come from the land of the rising sun, sent by forgotten gods. At first, the people laugh softly. The world, they say, is vast. Every shore has its own marvels. But when the first canoes of merchants return from the coast, their eyes are wide, their voices low. "We saw them," they whisper. "We saw the white wings." Far out at sea, the strangers drift closer, sails filled with a wind that smells of iron and distance. They have crossed an ocean without end, guided by stars they do not fully understand. To them, these coasts shimmer with promise. a paradise of green and gold. To the Maya, they appear first as small points upon the horizon, bright against the morning sun, like new stars rising from the water. The first meetings are cautious. Fishermen watch from the shore, their canoes half pulled onto the sand. The strangers step onto the beach, their boots sinking into the soft earth, their armor gleaming. The air between them is thick with curiosity. Hands gesture, gifts are offered, beads for mirrors, feathers for bells. The sea sighs, the gulls cry overhead, and for a moment it seems that two worlds might share the same horizon in peace. But misunderstanding moves faster than the tide. The strangers do not know the language of circles, they think in lines. To them, this coast is the edge of something to be claimed. To the Maya, it is the heart of a world already complete. The balance trembles, delicate as a drop of water upon a leaf. Inland, the people whisper of omens. Old priests consult the codices, tracing dates that fall near the turning of a great cycle. The heavens, they say, have always warned before change. Perhaps this is the next turning, one written not in stars, but in sails. Some look upon the newcomers and see divine messengers. Others see ghosts of ancestors returned from across the sea. Rain falls that night, a sudden heavy downpour. Lightning crawls across the sky. The elders listen to the thunder and murmur. The gods speak in storm. For a time, life continues as before. Inland cities still hum with markets and music. Scribes still paint glyphs upon plaster, though now they add curious sketches of men with beards and animals with hooves. Children chase one another through courtyards, laughing at the new stories travellers bring. The world has grown larger. Its edges now shimmer with mystery. Yet slowly, almost invisibly, change seeps in. New goods appear, metal blades that never dull, glass beads that sparkle like captured rain. With them come strange fevers, carried in breath and water. Some recover, many do not. The healers burn incense, sing prayers, search the forest for stronger medicine. But the sickness moves like mist, touching every doorway. Far to the west, messengers bring darker news. Entire provinces subdued, altars broken, idols cast down. The strangers march beneath banners of red and gold, carrying a cross that gleams in the sunlight. They speak of one God instead of many, of one book instead of countless codices. To some Maya lords, their faith is another pattern, one more story in the endless weave. To others, it feels like a blade cutting through the cloth. Still, diplomacy endures longer than fear. Envoys travel to meet the newcomers, offering food and gifts, seeking peace through ceremony. The strangers accept, but their hunger is not for maize or honey. They seek land, souls, and gold, things the Maya hold sacred for entirely different reasons. The meetings end with uneasy silence. Soon the drums of ritual are drowned by the thunder of muskets. Imagine the scene: a small village near the coast, its palms swaying in a restless wind. Smoke rises from cooking fires. Children play by the water. Then, an echo not of thunder, but of something sharper, heavier. Birds scatter. The people look toward the sound and see figures moving through the haze, armored and shining. The Maya run to the forest, hearts pounding. The strangers advance, calling words no one understands. A temple burns, its painted walls curling into ash. Rain begins again, soft at first, then fierce, as though the sky itself weeps. And still, through the smoke, some refuse to flee. A priest raises his hands toward the storm, whispering the old prayers. The world is a circle, he says. Even this will turn. The turning is long. Year after year, new fleets arrive. New rulers claim the land in distant names. The old cities crumble faster now, not by vine or time, but by fire. The sacred codices are gathered and burned. The script that once captured the stars vanishes into smoke. Yet the people remember. They hide fragments, whisper glyphs as songs, carve small signs upon pots and walls where no one thinks to look. Faith itself becomes a mask. The image of a saint conceals the face of a rain god. The sound of a hymn carries the rhythm of an older chant. Beneath the cloak of conversion, the ancient pulse continues, quiet but alive. Up in the Highlands, refugees rebuild. The villages shrink, but their hearts remain vast. Every planting, every festival, every story told by firelight becomes an act of resistance and remembrance. The language shifts, but never dies. Mothers teach children both prayers, the new and the old, and the two entwine like vines upon the same tree. The strangers bring their own faith, their own names for time, but the Maya keep theirs hidden in plain sight. A cross stands at the centre of the village, yet beneath it lies a stone carved long ago with the symbol of maize. The people kneel there, not in submission, but in continuity. If you walk through one of those mountain towns centuries later, you might not know which songs are ancient and which are borrowed. The voices blend so beautifully that the boundary disappears. That is how survival sounds, like harmony. The rain still falls on the terraces. The clouds still wrap the hills in silver. Children still laugh in the courtyards. And though the strangers build their churches of stone, the people still leave offerings of flowers at the foot of the old trees. Sometimes, late at night, the sea wind carries a faint echo, a bell from a distant mission, a conch shell from an older age. The sounds meet above the waves, neither conquering the other. The Maya listen and nod. Balance, they say softly. Even now. The strangers have come, and with them, the world has changed. But the circle of the Maya does not break. It bends, absorbs, and continues. Like the cenotes that swallow rain and return it as springs far away, the spirit of the people sinks deep and re-emerges elsewhere. Clear, enduring, unforgotten. The sea that brought the newcomers remains the same sea that carried the ancestors' canoes. Its waves erase footprints, but not memory. Under the moonlight, the water glows faintly green, as if remembering the fires of the old cities beneath the stars. For the Maya, history has always been a living thing, and even in the shadow of conquest, it breathes. Each dawn brings new light upon the ruins, and within that light, a promise that what was lost may yet be found, that the gods sleep but do not die, that the people who built with time will outlast those who built with fear. The dawn breaks over a land divided. Mist clings to the mountains, the valleys shimmer with dew. From the high ridges, smoke curls upward, some from hearths, some from burning fields. The air is heavy with the scent of pine, salt and iron. The strangers are no longer stories, they are here. Across the Yucatan and into the highlands of Guatemala, the Maya world feels the slow tightening of a new age. The banners of the cross now rise where the serpent once coiled. Bells ring from stone towers built upon the ruins of temples. The sound is clear and cold, echoing across the valleys where once only the conch shell sang. Yet beneath those echoes, another music lingers, the rhythm of drums, the whisper of prayers in languages the newcomers do not understand. The Maya have always known how to speak to gods through silence, how to hide memory in gesture, how to let the spirit survive beneath the weight of new names. In the early years, resistance flickers like firelight in the forest. Small kingdoms rise to defend their soil, the Itza in the Peten, the Quiche in the Highlands, the Yarline along the lakes. They move through the jungle as the old kings once did, guided by stars and the shape of rivers. They fight not to conquer, but to remain. The Spaniards come with steel and horses, with muskets that roar like thunder. Yet the forest swallows their armies as easily as it swallowed time. Paths vanish, rivers shift, rains drown their trails. The Maya know every route and shadow. The jungle fights beside them. For decades, the struggle continues. Not a single war, but many small ones, scattered like embers, refusing to go out. Each time a city falls, the survivors move deeper into the green, building again where the map ends. To the Spaniards, the land seems endless, impossible to tame. To the Maya, it has always been infinite, because it lives. In one village, as soldiers approach, the elders gather in the plaza. They do not shout or flee. They stand quietly, holding maize stalks in their hands, symbols of life. When the strangers demand surrender, the oldest woman steps forward. "We have no weapons," she says softly. "Only what the gods gave us to feed the world." The soldiers lower their muskets. Rain begins to fall. History will not remember her name, but it will remember her act, the courage of stillness. Over time, the swords give way to sermons. Missionaries arrive, building churches from the stones of old temples. They speak of salvation, of one heaven, one God, one truth. The Maya listen respectfully. They kneel, they nod, they learn the prayers. But beneath each new word, they keep the echo of the old. When the friars raise a cross, the people see not opposition, but reflection. They remember the ceiba tree, the world tree that connects sky, earth, and underworld. The cross, too, has 4 arms, 4 directions, a sign the gods themselves might recognize. So they bow before it without fear, for they know meaning cannot be owned. It can only be shared. In secret, the old rituals continue. At night, families leave offerings by the rivers, flowers, cacao, a whisper to the rain. The church bells ring at dawn, but the frogs still sing at dusk. 2 faiths flow together like rivers meeting in the same sea. Some priests see this blending and call it sin. Others see it and weep, not in anger, but in awe. Their faith, one writes, is deeper than the wells that feed the earth. He begins to learn their language, to ask rather than command. He discovers that the Maya do not worship idols, but principles, rain, maize, time, balance. He realizes, perhaps too late, that his own faith is not so different. Through men like him, bridges begin to form, words translate, stories overlap. The Virgin Mary takes on the colours of Ixchel, the moon goddess. Christ's sacrifice echoes the old myths of creation through blood and renewal. Slowly, painfully, a new spiritual landscape takes shape. Neither wholly Spanish nor wholly Maya, but something between. Still, there are shadows. The codices, the sacred books of bark paper and ink, are gathered and burned. Flames devour centuries of knowledge in a single afternoon. The sky darkens with smoke. The air fills with the scent of ink and ash. The people watch, silent. The friar overseeing the fire trembles as he writes. We found in them only lies of the devil. But the Maya know that fire does not destroy, it transforms. What the flames consume, the memory preserves. The stories retreat from page to heart, from temple to tongue. They live now in lullabies, in woven patterns, in the rhythm of footsteps along the terraces. The conquerors believe they have erased a civilization, but they have only moved it to a safer place. In the Highland towns, life begins anew. Markets return, filled with maize and salt, textiles dyed in colours that mimic sunrise and storm. The Spanish towns grow around them, their plazas paved with stone, their churches towering above. Yet in the corners of those same plazas, Maya women sit spinning cotton as their ancestors once did, humming old melodies beneath the sound of the bells. Children attend mass in the mornings and learn the ancient stories at night. Two calendars turn side by side, the Christian year and the Solkin, the sacred count that still guides births, marriages and harvests. The priests may not approve, but the gods do not mind. They have always shared the sky. Sometimes, the newcomer's own descendants begin to listen differently. A young friar walks through the forest and feels something stir in his heart. The light through the leaves reminds him of the stained glass of his cathedral, but softer, more alive. He begins to think that perhaps the divine lives not only in buildings, but in breath, in wind, in rain. He writes, "These people live as though the world itself were holy. Perhaps it is we who must learn their ways." His words never reach his superiors, but they survive in a margin of an old manuscript, rediscovered centuries later. Proof that understanding can bloom even in conquest's shadow. The years fold into centuries. The armies depart, but the language of power remains. The Maya adapt as they always have, carrying their identity beneath the surface like the roots of a ceiba. They farm, trade, pray, sing. They endure. When the rains come, the water rushes through the same rivers their ancestors named after gods. When lightning splits the sky, children are told, Chak is awake. And when the church bells ring for mass, they bow their heads, not in surrender, but in harmony. To live is to blend. To survive is to weave. If you stand now before one of the old churches built upon temple ruins, you can feel the dual heartbeat beneath your feet. The stones whisper in two tongues, Latin and Maya, neither silencing the other. Flowers laid at the altar carry both meanings. A prayer to Christ, a gift to the earth. The conquest, they say, took the land, but the land was never truly theirs to take. The mountains still speak Maya names, the rivers still follow Maya paths. The people still rise each dawn to greet the same sun their ancestors worshipped. The sacred lands remain sacred, even if the world forgets why. As dusk falls, the jungle exhales its cool breath once more. The sky turns violet, bats dart through the air. In a village lit by candles, an elder finishes his evening prayer and looks to the heavens. "They thought they conquered us," he murmurs, smiling. "But we are still here. We are the children of time. The night answers with rain, slow, steady, eternal. The sound fills the valleys, the rivers, the sleeping fields. Every drop is a memory returned. Every whisper of wind through the pines is the voice of endurance. The sacred lands are not lost. They are simply learning to dream anew." The bells of the new churches ring each dawn, their tones soft as mist over the valleys. The sound drifts through maize fields and across rivers, mingling with bird song and the sigh of wind through pines. It is the music of a changed world, yet beneath it, another rhythm hums, lower, older, patient. In the villages of the Highlands, the people rise with the sun. They kneel before small household altars where candles flicker beside clay figures, saints painted in European colours, yet bearing the faces of local gods. The Virgin Mary smiles with the calm of the moon goddess Ixchel. St. John holds a staff shaped like the maize stalk of Hun-Nal-Ye. To outsiders it is devotion, to the Maya it is memory disguised as prayer. The old gods have not vanished. They have simply learned new names. Each day begins the same way. Women grind maize on stone, the sound a steady heartbeat of life. Men lead their animals into terraced fields carved long ago from the hills. Children chase the light between the rows, their laughter rising with the smoke of cooking fires. At noon, clouds gather over the ridges. Thunder rolls, soft, distant. "Chak is awake," someone whispers. Crosses are lifted toward the sky, but so are open hands filled with water. Gratitude flows both ways. When the rain finally falls, it patters on tiled roofs and wooden churches alike, washing dust from saints and stone. The smell of wet earth fills the air, a scent older than empire, older than language. In the evening, stories return. Around hearths glowing with pine embers, elders speak in low tones of the gods who now sleep beneath the mountains. They tell how the sun and moon once argued, how the hero twins tricked death, how the world will one day be remade in light. Children listen wide-eyed, their faces golden in the firelight. Then, when the last tale ends, someone begins the rosary. The words change, but the rhythm remains the same. Beads clicking like rain on stone, a prayer that carries two meanings at once. The room fills with peace. If you could sit among them, what would you feel? The warmth of shared breath? The comfort of voices moving together, old and new entwined? You might not understand every word, but you would understand the feeling. That survival can be quiet, that faith can wear many faces and still be true. Time moves gently through these centuries. The conqueror's flags fade, but the people remain. They till, weave, sing, and count the days by the old calendar hidden within the new. Births and harvests are still chosen by auspicious numbers, whispered by wise men who pretend to be mere farmers. The keepers of time now work in secret, reading the stars when no one is watching. At the edge of each village stands a sacred hill or spring. On feast days, processions climb the slopes carrying crosses wound with flowers. At the top, they set offerings of fruit and incense, just as their ancestors once did. The priest blesses the crowd in Spanish, an elder murmurs the same blessing in Maya. Two worlds breathe together for a moment, perfectly aligned. In the marketplaces, colours bloom. Cloths woven on backstrap looms shimmer with patterns of suns, serpents and maize. Motifs the friars think are decoration, though each thread is a prayer. The traders smile, knowing that every design is a secret hymn to the old gods who taught them beauty through pattern. Jade is scarce now, but turquoise glass and bright beads replace it. Cacao is still traded as wealth. Salt still travels from the coast. The rhythm of exchange, like the rhythm of seasons, endures. Empires rise and fall, but the market always opens at dawn. Far from the villages, deep in the forest, ruins sleep beneath vines. The temples of Tikal, Palenque, and Copan stand silent, their carvings softened by moss. Yet sometimes a farmer resting beneath a ceiba tree hears a whisper in the leaves, a voice like wind over stone, The old gods, half dreaming, still stir. They do not demand worship. They listen. They watch their descendants walk the earth and smile, for endurance is the truest prayer. When lightning flashes over the jungle, the carvings gleam for an instant, as though remembering fire. Then darkness returns, calm and complete. The gods sleep again, content. Centuries pass. The world grows louder. New roads, new rulers, new tongues. But in the Highlands, the rhythm remains slow. The people still measure time by rain, still see stories in stars. A girl learns to weave from her mother, who learned from hers. A boy learns the names of constellations his ancestors mapped before telescopes existed. Each act of learning is a bridge between eras. One evening, the village gathers for a festival. The church bells ring and candles line the plaza. Musicians play flutes and marimbas. Dancers in feathered masks whirl beneath the banners. To the visitors, it is a saint's day. To the locals, it is also something older, the dance of rain and maize, of sun and shadow. Laughter rises like smoke, and for a moment, the centuries fold into one bright living instant. Can you see it? The torches reflecting on the wet stones? The faces, brown, gold and glowing, singing in a language older than conquest. If you listen long enough, you might hear two melodies entwined, the hymn and the chant, the bell and the drum, the new faith and the old heart beating as one. Not all memories are joyous, some carry sorrow. There are years of drought again, years of tribute and labour, years when hope seems thin as mist. But even then, the people turn to the same comfort, the circle. They remind one another. The rains return, the gods renew, the world breathes, rests, and begins again. In hidden corners, scribes begin once more to write. They use the Latin letters taught by friars to record the stories of creation, the deeds of ancestors, the songs of maize. One such book will be called Popol Vuh, the Book of Counsel. Within its pages, the old gods speak again, not in stone, but in ink, surviving in the very language of their conquerors. Memory finds a new voice. As dawn breaks over the centuries, the world of the Maya stands quiet, yet unbroken. The churches gleam white in the sunlight. Behind them, the hills shimmer green with hidden shrines. The people move between them with ease, their steps tracing invisible lines between earth and heaven, past and present. A woman lights a candle before a statue of the Virgin, then turns and scatters maize before the door. A farmer blesses his field with holy water, then bows to the rising sun. Balance, always balance. If you were to walk through one of these villages today, you might see the children playing by the church steps, their laughter echoing off stones that once formed the walls of a temple. You might hear a grandmother humming an ancient tune while she braids her granddaughter's hair. You might catch the scent of copal drifting from a window, mingling with the smell of fresh bread. And you would realize the old gods never left. They simply learn to live beside new ones. The echoes are everywhere, in colour, in rhythm, in the calm persistence of daily life. The people carry them without effort, as naturally as breathing. The gods no longer need temples of stone. They dwell in hearts that remember. Night returns soft and star-bright. The mountains breathe their cool mist across the fields. From the distance comes the sound of a bell, answered by a single drumbeat from some unseen celebration. The two sounds meet in the air and merge, indistinguishable. The echoes of the old gods have become the heartbeat of the living world. They are the sigh of the wind through maize, the hush before rain, the laughter of children in the dark. And in that quiet music, the Maya find peace, a harmony no conquest could silence. The jungle dreams in silence. For centuries it has held its secrets close, the breath of time heavy in its green lungs. Vines coil through corridors where kings once walked. Roots wrap the altars, embracing them like sleeping children. The songs of birds replace the chants of priests. The rustle of leaves becomes the language of the forgotten. Rain falls without end. It beads upon the carved faces of gods, trickles through glyphs that no one alive can read. The temples glisten, half buried, half awake. The forest has reclaimed the world that built it, not in vengeance, but in mercy. Here, among the ruins, everything has been allowed to rest. And yet, beneath the hum of cicadas and the slow pulse of rain, the old stones remember. They remember the voices that once filled these plazas, the hands that smoothed their surfaces, the eyes that watched the stars from their heights. They remember the laughter of children, the rhythm of drums, the prayers whispered into smoke. Memory, like the jungle itself, never dies. It only waits for light. Then, one morning, light returns. In the year 1839, two travelers push through the thick foliage of Guatemala's Petén. Their boots sink into moss, their machetes slice through vines heavy with dew. They have heard rumors of lost cities hidden in the jungle, of walls carved with faces, of temples larger than cathedrals. Their names are John Lloyd Stevens and Frederick Catherwood, explorer and artist. They do not come seeking conquest, but wonder. When they reach a clearing, they stop. Before them rises a staircase of stone, each step slick with moss, leading upward into shadow. Trees sprout from its sides, roots thick as serpents. High above, a temple roof comb pierces the canopy like the spine of a sleeping god. Stevens removes his hat. Catherwood stands silent, sketchbook trembling in his hand. "It is as though the world has ended," he whispers, "and yet something greater remains." They have found Copan, or rather, Copan has allowed itself to be found. For weeks they explore by torchlight and moonlight, mapping every courtyard, every altar, every glyph. Catherwood's pen moves swiftly, capturing the faces of kings and gods that no one has seen for centuries. Stevens writes of his awe. "We stood among the works of a people who have passed away, and the silence around us was like that of the grave. But it is not a grave they stand in. It is a cradle. The jungle has preserved what the world forgot." More discoveries follow. Palenque, Uxmal, Tikal, Bonampak, cities stretching across the Yucatan like constellations rediscovered after a long eclipse. Columns emerge from vines. Painted walls gleam faintly beneath centuries of dust. Faces stare from the stone, calm, intelligent, patient. They do not accuse, they only wait to be understood. When news of these discoveries reaches the wider world, fascination ignites. Scholars argue, poets dream. Who were these people? Where did they go? The answers lie in the very stones, but their language has been lost to time. The glyphs, carved so carefully, remain silent to the eyes of those who gaze upon them. For decades, explorers trace the shapes with their fingers, hoping for meaning. They draw and measure, guess and debate. Some claim the builders were Egyptians lost across the sea. Others insist they were survivors of Atlantis. The truth waits patiently, knowing it will be recognized only when the world learns again to listen. Meanwhile, the descendants of the builders live all around, in villages near the ruins, speaking the same soft syllables, planting the same maize, singing the same songs. They visit the temples quietly, leaving flowers at the base of trees that have grown through the stones. To them, these places are not mysteries, they are memories still alive. When the outsiders ask who built them, the villagers smile. Our grandfathers, they say simply, and the gods. In time, the language of the glyphs begins to awaken. Through patience and brilliance, scholars and Maya thinkers together unlock the code. They learn that the carvings are not mere decoration, but sentences, verbs, dates, names, poetry. Each stela is a heartbeat. Each wall is a chapter. The cities begin to speak again, their voices slow but clear. They tell of births and battles, of astronomers and kings, of rain and ritual. They tell of laughter, of triumph, of loss. They tell the story of a people who saw time not as an arrow, but as a circle that always returns. The lost voices of stone are no longer lost. They whisper in the museums, in the classrooms, in the wind that moves through broken arches. They whisper of pride, resilience, and the endless human desire to remember. Imagine walking through one of these sites today. The jungle hums softly. Shafts of sunlight fall through the leaves, dust motes dancing within them like stars underwater. The stones are warm beneath your fingers. You trace a line of glyphs, their edges smooth with centuries of rain. A bird calls from somewhere unseen. For a moment, you feel the distance between past and present dissolve. The city breathes again. You see, the Maya were never gone. Their language still flows from mouth to mouth. Their gods still hide in rain and corn. Their calendars still mark the turning of the world. What was buried was not their existence, but our awareness of it. The forest merely kept it safe until we were ready to see. As the 20th century unfolds, the ruins draw scholars, artists, dreamers. Expeditions bring new tools, cameras, lights, ropes, notebooks. But even with all their instruments, they tread softly, for the air feels sacred. The jungle has become a cathedral, its pillars vines, its windows sunlight. Workers uncover murals at Bonampak that still shine with red and turquoise pigment, scenes of dance and ritual preserved by chance and humidity. The faces in the paintings gaze outward, as though surprised but not displeased to be remembered. Each discovery feels like the turning of another page in a long-lost book. Among the ruins, time folds in on itself. Modern footsteps echo against ancient stairs. A researcher pauses at a temple summit, feeling the same wind that once touched the faces of kings. In that breath of air, centuries disappear. The voices of the stones are not loud. They never were. They speak through texture, light, and patience. You must listen the way one listens to rain, not for words, but for rhythm. Night falls over the jungle. The air grows cool. Fireflies rise like drifting embers. The ruins glow silver beneath the moon. Somewhere an owl calls, and the sound lingers among the columns. The explorers have gone. The cameras are packed away. Only the forest and the stone remain, breathing together as they always have. A ceiba tree sways gently beside a temple wall. Its roots curl around the stones, binding the past to the present. The wind rustles its leaves, and for an instant, you could swear it's speaking. Perhaps it says, "I kept them safe for you." In the distance, A river glimmers. It carries the reflection of stars once charted by Maya astronomers long ago. The same constellations look down upon the ruins now, unchanged, eternal. The builders who mapped them are gone, but their measure of time still turns with perfect grace. The night deepens, heavy with fragrance, orchids, rain, and the faint sweetness of decay that feeds new life. The jungle sleeps, and within its dreams, the cities remain alive. Temples glowing gold at dawn, markets filled with laughter, priests whispering to the gods of thunder and maize. In dreams, nothing is lost. The voices of stone are not cries of sorrow. They are lullabies of endurance. They remind us that memory is not held in books or walls, but in the act of caring enough to remember at all. Every traveller who touches these stones becomes part of the same circle, carrying the story forward. The Maya built for eternity, and eternity has answered. The morning light drifts over the forest like a long sigh of gold. It touches the crowns of ceiba trees, glints on the dew caught in spider webs, and finally reaches the stone faces waiting beneath the leaves. For centuries, they have watched the same light return. Now they greet it once more, not with kings or priests, but with explorers, artists, and scientists who have come to listen rather than rule. The ruins no longer hide. They rise from the jungle like dreams remembered, tall, quiet, eternal. In the early 20th century, the world learns to speak to them again. Photographers arrive with cameras large as cabinets, their black cloths fluttering like wings. Archaeologists climb the temples at dawn, careful not to disturb the moss. Local Maya families walk beside them, guiding the way, smiling as if introducing guests to their sleeping ancestors. At Palenque, at Tikal, at Copan, the jungle begins to part like a curtain. Brush by brush, layer by layer, time peels back its green skin. The carvings emerge sharp, as though freshly made. Painted murals, still brilliant after 1,000 rains, reveal scenes of ceremony, dance, and sky. Each discovery feels less like conquest and more like reunion. The people who study the ruins realize that they are not uncovering something lost. They are meeting something that has been waiting for them to understand. A young archaeologist kneels before a stela at dawn. The air is cool, heavy with mist. He traces the carved lines with his fingers, careful not to damage the surface. The glyphs are intricate, each one a puzzle, each curve a whisper. He cannot yet read them, but he feels their pulse. He knows they are words, not symbols of mystery, but sentences of memory. Behind him, an old man from a nearby village watches quietly. When the archaeologist stands, the man smiles and says, "These are not the words of the dead. They still breathe. You only need to listen." And so, scholars begin to listen, with patience, humility, and awe. Decade by decade, the language of the stones awakens. The breakthrough comes not from the foreigners alone, but from the descendants of the builders themselves. Maya linguists, teachers, and poets who recognize the rhythms of their own tongue hidden within the glyphs. Bit by bit, the carvings yield their secrets. A single sign means birth. Another means rain. A third means the motion of Venus. And when they are placed together, they sing. For the first time in 1,000 years, the words of ancient scribes are spoken aloud again. They describe coronations, marriages, battles, and dreams. They speak of kings who trace time itself, of queens who stood beside them as partners in divinity. The stones tell stories not of myth, but of human lives, vibrant, complex, and real. The voices that once seemed lost now speak clearly across centuries, their language carried by wind and scholarship alike. At Tikal, temples rise again from the jungle's green embrace. Archaeologists and local workers rebuild the stairways stone by stone, lifting each block as though placing time itself back into balance. From the top, the view stretches across a sea of trees, the canopy rolling to every horizon. The air hums with cicadas, the same music that once filled the ears of kings. At Copan, the hieroglyphic stairway is cleaned and restored. More than 2,000 glyphs spiral upward, recording generations of rulers in a single flowing sentence. Each step is a heartbeat in stone. At Palenque, they open the tomb of Pakal the Great, his body still adorned with jade beads, his face covered by a mosaic mask, the colour of leaves after rain. When the scientists lift the mask, they do so in reverent silence. They do not disturb a king. They greet a voice of history. All across the Maya world, communities join in the work. Farmers become excavation experts. Artists become restorers. Children become guides. Each discovery is shared not only with the world beyond, but with the villages nearby. Elders nod in approval, saying softly, "Yes, that is where the ancestors walked. We always knew." The past is no longer a story of ruins. It is a living inheritance. The scholars who come to study begin to learn from the people whose blood carries the memory of the builders. Slowly, respectfully, a new partnership forms, one built on reverence rather than ownership. The Maya teach that the earth remembers everything. The archaeologists learn that to uncover the past, one must move with the gentleness of rain. Can you imagine walking those temples today? The air warm, heavy with the scent of orchids, the sound of your own breath mingling with the buzz of insects. You reach the summit of a pyramid just as the sun sets, the jungle stretching endless and green. The stones beneath your feet are warm, alive. You touch one and feel it hum faintly, not with sound, but with meaning. It has witnessed millennia of dawns, countless faces, storms, prayers, silence. It needs no words to tell its story. It only asks that you pause long enough to hear it. What would you feel there? Awe? Humility? Perhaps the strange peace of knowing that time is not a wall, but a circle, that the people who built this world still walk within it, in language, in laughter, in the slow turning of the sun. As the 20th century turns to the 21st, the Maya world thrives again. Cities long silent echo with festivals and ceremony. In Guatemala, Belize, Mexico and Honduras, the descendants of those ancient builders speak their languages proudly. Quichua, Yucatec, Quechua, Tzotzil, and many more. Young scholars learn to read the glyphs not as riddles, but as the words of their ancestors. Artists carve new stelae. Poets write verses that flow like the old inscriptions, short, precise, rhythmic. Musicians set the Maya calendar to melody, turning the long count into song. The culture that the world once called lost stands radiant and alive. Yet even as science celebrates the discoveries, the jungle still holds its mysteries. There are temples, yet uncharted, tombs untouched, names unread. But perhaps that is as it should be. The Maya taught that knowledge must ripen like fruit. It cannot be rushed. Some truths wait for the right listener. Each new generation becomes that listener. Students kneel beside archaeologists, drawing the same lines in notebooks that scribes once carved in stone. Villagers share stories of spirits who guard the ruins at night, protectors who ensure that the stones are never taken, only understood. The sacred balance remains. As dusk gathers, torches flicker once more among the temples, not for sacrifice, but for celebration. Children's voices echo through the plazas, their laughter mingling with the hum of night. The ceiba trees, centuries old, sway gently in the breeze. The stones glow faintly under the moon, as if pleased to see life return. A Maya elder stands at the base of a temple and lifts his hand. His voice, soft but strong, carries through the air. We were never lost. We only waited for the world to remember. If you listen, even now, the stones still whisper that truth. Their language lives again in books, in classrooms, in digital screens glowing in the dark. The story that began in the jungles before time has found its way into the modern heart, not as myth, but as memory, alive and breathing. Every temple, every glyph, every word of the Popol Vuh, every heartbeat in a living Maya village today, they are all chapters of the same book, a book the earth itself is still writing. The kingdoms of time have not returned from death. They were never gone. They were always here, folded into rain and soil, waiting for the right moment to be seen. The archaeologists uncovered the stones. The descendants reawakened the spirit. And together they remind us that history is not the story of what was. It is the echo of what still is. The night deepens over the forest. Stars bloom like white flowers in the sky. The wind moves through the ceiba trees, carrying the soft murmur of crickets, the rustle of leaves, the endless breath of life. Somewhere beneath that same sky, the stones listen too, patient, proud, eternal. And in their silence you can almost hear them speak. Time remembers. Night settles across the hills of the Yucatan like a great blue blanket. The last light fades from the sky, leaving only the shimmer of stars and the faint gold of distant fires. Somewhere in the Highlands, a woman hums a lullaby in a language older than empire. The sound drifts over terraces and rivers, winding its way toward the sleeping ruins. The jungle listens, patient as ever. It has seen the rise of kings and the fall of kingdoms. It has watched steel ships arrive and vanish. Now it watches the quiet persistence of the people who never left. Morning returns slowly. In a mountain village, the first rays of sunlight spill across walls painted turquoise and rose. Smoke curls upward from cooking fires. Children hurry to school, their laughter echoing down the cobbled street. Some lessons are in Spanish, others in Quichua or Yucatec. They switch between tongues effortlessly, the way a bird shifts from flight to song. Their teachers tell them both histories, the one written in books and the one carried in blood. When they recite ancient numbers, they count on the same base 20 system their ancestors used to track the heavens. When they learn geometry, they draw temples instead of towers. They are modern, yet they stand upon a very old foundation. Outside, the elders sit in the sun, weaving baskets, mending nets, smiling as they watch another generation step into the circle. Across the Maya lands, from Mexico to Belize, from Guatemala to Honduras, the people still plant maize with prayer. They watch the moon to time the rains. They greet the first thunder as an old friend. Festivals fill the plazas with colour, red for fire, blue for water, green for maize. Drums roll, marimbas sing, and dancers in feathered masks whirl beneath banners of smoke and light. The music is centuries deep. Each note carries the echo of ancient flutes. Each step mirrors the spiral of stars. The people move in time with their ancestors, and the earth moves with them. Can you see it? Torches glimmering beside whitewashed churches, women laughing as they toss flower petals into the air, children spinning until they collapse into grass and giggles. The same joy that once filled the plazas of Tikal now fills these smaller squares. The scale has changed, but not the soul. Scholars and travellers come now not as conquerors, but as students. They walk softly through villages where the old calendars still mark the days. They learn that the Maya measure time not by hours but by cycles, each one a breath of the universe. They learn that a day is not merely 24 hours, but a living being with its own name and temperament. In the homes of daykeepers, the spiritual guardians of time, candles burn in quiet rows, each flame representing a day's spirit. When a visitor asks what the flames mean, the keeper smiles. "This one is for beginnings," he says. "This one is for forgiveness. This one is for rain." The visitor nods, uncertain how to respond. The keeper simply adds, "All time is alive. It listens to us," and perhaps it does. In the cities, new museums rise beside the ruins. Young Maya archaeologists walk the same paths that explorers once took, notebooks in hand, eyes bright with pride. They uncover artifacts not as outsiders, but as grandchildren returning home. Every discovery is personal. A carved jade bead, a painted shard of pottery, a glyph that spells a name long dormant. At night, they sit around campfires and speak softly in mixed tongues: English, Spanish, Quiche, Yucatec, their laughter weaving them together. The fire crackles, sending sparks upward toward the same constellations that guided their ancestors' hands. One of them looks up and says, "We are the proof that time remembers." The others nod. The forest nods too, its leaves rustling in approval. Beyond the mountains, the coast glimmers. Canoes and small boats still cut across the turquoise water, just as they did 1,000 years ago. Fishermen mend their nets by lantern light. Children play in the surf, shouting to one another over the roar of the waves. A storm gathers far out at sea, lightning pulsing behind the clouds. The people watch with reverence, not fear. Rain, thunder, wind, these are not threats. They are the old gods speaking, reminding the world that creation is never finished. The Maya listen, and when the first drops fall, they lift their faces to the sky, smiling. Elsewhere, artists carry the legacy forward. Painters depict temples dissolving into jungle light. Poets write verses that braid ancient glyphs with modern speech. Musicians craft songs that blend wooden flutes with electric strings. Each act of creation is another sunrise for the culture. Proof that heritage is not a monument, but a melody that keeps being sung. And in quiet corners, elders still tell the old stories. They speak of the hero twins, of the maize god's rebirth, of the sacred ball game played between light and shadow. The children listen as though hearing the universe breathe. When the story ends, they sit in silence for a moment, then smile. "Tell it again," they say. The elder laughs softly. "It will tell itself," he answers. "Even the ruins live anew." Tourists arrive at dawn to climb the steps of Chichen Itza, Palenque, Tikal. They whisper in awe, take photos, fall silent when the wind moves through the stones. Some kneel and press a hand against the ancient walls, feeling the faint warmth left by the sun. Others close their eyes and imagine the voices that once echoed there. The caretakers, often Maya families whose ancestors tended the same land, watch with quiet pride. They sweep the steps, clear the vines, guide the curious. The temples still work, one says. They make people listen. At sunset, when the crowds leave, the ruins return to stillness. Birds roost on the spires, bats drift from the arches. The last light paints the carvings gold, and for a heartbeat, it seems the stone gods smile. The modern world rushes fast beyond the jungle, but here time keeps its own pace. Phones fall silent under the canopy, signals fade. The only messages are those written in wind and leaf. A traveller standing atop a temple at twilight can see nothing but forest in every direction, endless and green. In that vastness, the noise of centuries dissolves. What remains is peace. The traveller breathes deeply and feels small, yet connected. A single note in an infinite song. Below, the cicadas begin their evening chorus, and the rhythm feels familiar, ancient. It is the same pulse that once guided drums in the courts of kings, the sound of life repeating itself. And so the circle closes, not with an ending, but with continuation. The Maya still speak, still plant, still celebrate, still dream. Their languages carry stars, their rituals carry rain, their art carries light. They are not relics of the past, but guardians of balance, teaching the world once more how to listen to the earth. To dream for them is not escape, it is memory. Every dream retells the story of creation, the gods shaping humans from maize, the twins outwitting darkness, the sun reborn each morning from the underworld. When the people sleep, the gods dream through them. When they wake, they carry those dreams into the day. And so, the Maya still dream, in their art, in their prayers, in the rhythm of their labour, in the quiet dignity of endurance. Dreaming is how they keep the world turning. Night deepens again over the forest. The stars bloom brighter, mirrored in the wells of the Yucatan. The air is warm and full of scent, copal, rain, earth. Somewhere a drum beats softly, joined by the far-off toll of a church bell. The two sounds merge, ancient and new, and the harmony seems to whisper, everything continues. The ruins sleep. The villages dream. The gods rest, but never leave. Time folds its wings and settles over the land like a gentle bird. If you listen very carefully, you can still hear it. The breath of the forest, the heartbeat of the stones, the murmur of a people who never stopped believing. The Maya still dream, and because they do, the world still turns. Sleep well, traveller. May your own dreams be full of rainlight and renewal. May you wake with the same calm certainty that guided the first builders of time, that nothing beautiful is ever truly lost.